EFL Round 28 spun shocks and surprises as Derby County put themselves into a position where John Eustace could take them into the playoff positions. Coventry City got back to winning ways as Ipswich Town continued their fine run of form. Preston North End struggle at home as predicted, and Blackburn Rovers lose 3-1 to Swansea City. Norwich City do a 5-0 thrashing as they look to get themselves out of the relegation zone. Now in this video we're going to take a look into round 29, all the big fixtures that are heading your way and how the championship table could look out of this weekend. Now obviously if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. But let's dive into it. Now round 29, there is some huge, and I mean huge fixtures. Derby County taking on West Brom on Friday night is a massive, massive game as Derby County could finally solidify themselves in those playoff positions before all the Saturday afternoon games. Now that would be a massive step up for John Eustace considering where he got into the club this time just over a year ago. You've also got a big derby between Pompey and Southampton, and Norwich City look to continue their fine form up against Coventry, who are the league leaders. Sheffield United host Ipswich Town, and that is going to be an absolutely massive one. Now shall we take a look into each and every game and see how this weekend is going to transpire? Football isn't just 90 minutes. It is who you are. From iconic shirts to scarves, hoodies and everyday wear, Kitbag has all the latest official footballing merchandise for fans like yourselves who absolutely live the game. Whether at home or away, whether at match day or a Monday, wear your colours with pride. Wherever football takes you, don't let it just be there. Watch football, wear football, you know where to go. Shop Kitbag down in the description. I'll catch you next time. Now Derby County and West Brom is a huge game in the EFL Championship, and not just for the reason of the potential of Derby County getting into the playoffs, but also for the situation with West Brom. They've ultimately not been the team that many expected them to be this season, and I think obviously they've changed manager recently, bringing in Eric Ramsey to replace Ryan Mason, and ultimately that's not gone to plan. Derby County, this time over a year ago, were about to sit rock bottom of the championship and were about to remove Paul Warne from his position to input John Eustace, and this time around they're potentially going to be in the playoffs coming out of Friday night. Now I have got a full preview of this over on the Derby Digest YouTube channel, which is my Derby channel, so let's take a look at a couple of the insights. Derby have scored 6 in their last 5. I think we've scored in like 16 or 17 games in a row, which is absolutely phenomenal. We've conceded the most penalties this year, but we have not lost to West Brom in the last 7 meetings. Now, West Brom haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 games, and they've scored 5 in their last 5. Now, if we look at the recent form for the two sides, Derby County have 3 wins in 5 with 2 defeats to Wrexham and Leeds. Their last 2 victories were really good ones away from home. Patrick Adjumang's really in form at the moment and is attracting interest from Premier League clubs, rumoured to be worth around £20 million. It's going to be interesting to see if Derby County can get their 3rd win on the spin as they head back to Pride Park Stadium. Now for West Brom, it's 4 losses out of 5 and a really disappointing defeat to Norwich City in midweek, and that's something which we can't really ignore. Now, if you look at the league table, Derby County find themselves 10th with 41 points from 28. Coming out of Friday night's game, Derby County could find themselves in 6th with 44 points from 29 games, which is an absolute step up from where Derby County were this time last year. I think they had about 27, 28 points. Now, you look at West Brom, 31 points from 28. They have played an extra game over the likes of Blackburn, Oxford, and a couple over Pompey. So there's a real possibility they're in danger of relegation this season, which is obviously not something which West Brom fans should really be worrying about with the squad that they've got, in my personal opinion. Now, we've already spoke about the head-to-head. Derby County absolutely dominate West Brom in terms of head-to-head. Not lost against West Brom since 2020, which is absolutely massive. Now, for me, my prediction for this game is going to be Derby County 1, West Bromwich Albion 0. And we head into the next game then, which is Middlesbrough versus Preston North End. Now, if you did watch my previous predictions video on this channel, you will have saw my prediction for Preston and their home games. And after watching them against Derby County at home, I just felt as if Preston just aren't the team that they were earlier on in the season. And I think a lot of that is down to the pitch cutting up and things like that. But heading away from home to Middlesbrough could give them an opportunity to pick up a good result. Now, Middlesbrough obviously in a little bit of a position where they are scoring goals, they're winning games, but it's not really convincing, in my personal opinion anyway. They went through a little bit of a difficult run. Obviously, they're now back on form in the league. It's 3 wins in a row against Southampton, West Brom and Stoke, but it's not really been convincing. And I think that they can be a much better team. I'm not going to lie. I do think they can be a much better team. I do think they're probably going to find themselves in and around those automatic promotion places come the end of the season. I'm sure many of you will agree. Now, as I mentioned about Preston being poor at home, this is exactly what I mean. 3 back-to-back-to-back defeats after an away win and beating Sheffield Wednesday at home. But everybody should beat Sheffield Wednesday. So it's not looking good for them at home. But on the road, this could be an excellent opportunity for them. Preston currently sitting 6th. They're going to look to try and hold their position on Saturday when they play Middlesbrough. Because obviously with the Derby victory, Derby go ahead. Watford can go ahead, Stoke, Wrexham, etc. So Preston are going to try and hold on to that. Now Middlesbrough have 1 game extra on Ipswich, but they have 52 from 28. It's going to be interesting to see how this one does fall through. Now we look to September, Preston North End 2, Middlesbrough 2. A very, very interesting game. And if we look at the head-to-head, it's very, very even, to be quite honest. 9 wins, 8 draws and 7 wins for Preston. For me, though, I think there's only going to be one winner out of this one. I've got Middlesbrough 2, Preston North End 1. Now we head on to the next game, which is Millwall versus Charlton. Now, I watched Charlton in midweek, obviously, as they played up against Derby. And I have to say, don't rate them. I don't rate them at all. Now, completely understandable the position they're in. Obviously, coming up from League One, it's a difficult balance to find that squad of players and to make it all work. But I just didn't think they had much threat, to be completely honest. And the most threatening they were was once Derby County had a man sent off. And we have to acknowledge the fact that Derby County had 37-year-old Richard O'Donnell in goal, whose only game this season came for Grimsby, and his last championship game was back in like 2016. So they didn't really test him enough, in my opinion. Now, if we look at the insights, Millwall have 6 goals in their last 5, but haven't lost to Charlton in their last 12. Charlton have scored 6 in 5, and James Bree has created the most big chances, but he will not be a part of the squad, with him returning to Southampton. Now, if we look at recent results for both sides, it's 1 win in 5 for Charlton, with 2 draws and 2 defeats. For Millwall, it's 2 wins, 2 defeats, and a draw. So it's a very, very similar sort of form pattern. Obviously, Millwall losing to Coventry in midweek, which is a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, it's Coventry, so you can give it the benefit of the doubt. Millwall currently sit in 5th with 46 points from 28. Charlton sit in 18th, 32 points from 27. Now, as I mentioned, I think it was in the previous video, I think until you hit 40 points, there's a chance you can get dragged in, because you know how runs work in this league. You go on a run of defeats, you drop like a stone. So realistically, I think QPR upwards are safe this season, to be completely honest. That's my personal opinion, and I'm saying that on the 22nd of January. So you can quote this in a few months if you want to, but I think 12th and above are safe, whereas everyone below 12th at the moment is in a little bit of danger still. Now, as we look at sort of the head-to-head picture, Millwall haven't won. Charlton haven't won, against Millwall, which is crazy to think about, really. And this is obviously only sort of the head-to-heads that see what FootMob have. Now, for this game, I've got Millwall 1, Charlton 0. I just can't see Charlton getting anything out of it. I'm not going to lie, I don't think they were very good in midweek, and that's sort of where we go with that one. Birmingham City then, they face up against Stoke. And again, as much as Birmingham City have started to pick up some form, I just don't actually think they're that good. Now, Stoke City have been on a decent run. They've dropped the last couple of games, obviously to QPR and Middlesbrough, but still a decent side for me. Now, I don't really know how to feel about this one. It's 3 wins in 5, for Birmingham, 3 wins in 5 for Stoke. It's going to be an interesting one. Stoke obviously sitting in 8th, could find themselves in the playoffs should the Preston result go their way, as you could say for a lot of these teams down here. Birmingham are teetering on the edge of, in my opinion, being secure in the Championship for the 2026-27 season. I know saying that after 28 games is crazy, but I genuinely believe it. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. If we look at the numbers, Stoke won the last game back in September, but it's Birmingham who have won the most. There's 5 draws in there and 4 wins for Stoke City. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one does go. For me, though, I've got Birmingham 1, Stoke City 1 coming out of this one, as we go to Blackburn versus Watford. Now, both of these two teams, I think you can both turn around and say that they're not necessarily an unbelievable team, but they're not a terrible team. Now, obviously Blackburn are in a horrific run of form, and they are down there near the bottom of the division, and I don't necessarily think it's because they're a bad team. I'm not going to lie. I think it's more because they're just struggling to put together a run and put together decent results. Now, the draw against Charlton, good result. Draw against Hull, good result. But then it's the games against the likes of Wrexham. You're losing 2-0. The game against Swansea, you're losing 3-1. That just can't happen in this division. Now, Watford have 2 wins in 5. Their defeats have come against Bristol and Millwall. A draw against Pompey in midweek, which ain't the greatest result, but it's not the worst. And I think as you look at the league table, obviously Watford sitting in 7th. And them sitting in 7th for me is a little bit of a shock when I sort of look at their performances, because don't actually think they've been all too great, in complete honesty. Now, obviously, you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. But we go down to Blackburn Rovers. They currently sit in the relegation zone. Now, I don't think they are a relegation squad. Now, they very easily could go down. We've seen this before. Teams without relegation squads go down. We've seen it before because they get complacent. And I think that if Blackburn can just put a run together, they'll be fine. But, as I say, 40 points, they're 12 points away. It's not as if it's impossible, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Now, we look at the head-to-heads. It's 6 wins apiece with 3 draws in there. We go back to September. Blackburn beat Watford 1-0. And I think for this one, I am going to go with a draw again. I'm going Blackburn 0, Watford 0, because, I don't know, I can't see a high-scoring game in this one. Can't really see a goal at all. Now, we head then into Bristol City versus Sheffield Wednesday. Don't really need to say much. We don't need to look at the form. We don't need to look at the data. We can look at the league table just to give you an idea. Bristol City in 11th on 40. Sheffield Wednesday on -7 at the bottom. I think Sheffield Wednesday, I think a lot of the players have down tools, to be completely honest, because at the end of the day, they were never going to survive, were they? And that's just the true fact of life. Now, back in September, Bristol City won 3-0. Wouldn't surprise me if it was the same result. I'm going Bristol City 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Can't see anything positive coming out of this one for Sheffield Wednesday. Now, in terms of the next game, which is Hull City versus Swansea City, I'm really excited about Hull. I genuinely am. Because Hull City last year, like Derby, like Stoke, like a lot of other teams, struggled in this division. But for some reason, Preston's another one, but for some reason this year, they've really found a gear. And I don't know where the gear's come from. I don't know how they've found it, but they're 3 wins in 5 with a draw against Blackburn, a loss against Stoke. And they're in a really good position in the league table. They are currently 4th. They are 5 points clear of 7th place as of today, with a game in hand on the likes of Stoke, Wrexham. You look at Preston, Millwall as well. There's a possibility they could be level on points with Ipswich when all things are said and done, which is brilliant. And it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of goes. Now, the thing is, you look down to like 16th place. There's 6 points between 16th and 7th. There's 7 points between that and 6th. So it's not as if these teams are sort of out of the running. It's a very big run-in at the moment, in my opinion. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all transpires. Now, if you look at the head-to-heads, it's 9 wins for Hull, 6 wins for Swansea, and 8 draws. You go back to September. It was a 2-2 draw between the two sides. For me, though, I've got only one team winning. It is going to be a Hull City 3-1 victory coming out of this one. Don't know why, just got a feeling about Hull City. As we head then into Leicester City versus Oxford. And let's not beat around the bush. Oxford have changed their manager. They're picking up points. It's not enough points, but they're starting to pick up points, which is brilliant. Leicester City, on the other hand, dropped a game to Sheffield United, dropped a game to Coventry, dropped a game to Wrexham. It's going to be interesting to see how they sort of turn this around. Now, for Oxford, the most important thing for them is being able to sort of get themselves out of the relegation zone, which is going to be tough. It is always going to be tough. And you look at Leicester, they're not that far away from the playoff positions, in 14th place on 38 points. Obviously, Oxford, they need to get a couple of wins on the board and quick time. They are a game in hand on Norwich, who currently sit on 30, so they could be 3 points behind with a victory in their game in hand. But we're going to have to sort of wait and see how that sort of goes across the course of the next few weeks. Obviously, Leicester, they'll be hoping that they can sort of push themselves into this playoff picture by the end of the season. We had Southampton sneak up there earlier in the season. Sheffield United not quite there yet. Very much a team in transition under Chris Wilder. But we look at the latest results from these two sides. There's one game back in 2016 and one game in 2025. That game was a 2-2 draw with Gary Rowett as the manager. Personally, though, I can't see Oxford getting anything out of this one. I've got Leicester City 1, Oxford United 0 as we head to the next game, which is QPR versus Wrexham. A big game, genuinely a big game, because both of these two teams have gone through really good runs of form, but have also had big dips across the course of the season. You look at QPR in their last 5, it's only 1 win. You look at Wrexham, it's 2 wins in their last 5, and a defeat to Norwich City. Now, I know they beat Nottingham Forest on penalties, but we ignore that because that's the Cup. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one does go for me. Because you look at the league table, Wrexham currently sitting in 9th, very much in a position where they could be in the playoffs come the end of the season. QPR in 12th. Also could be in those playoff positions. It is going to be interesting to see how this one does transpire. But in terms of head-to-heads, QPR won their only game earlier on in the season, a 3-1 victory up against Wrexham. It's going to be interesting to see how this one does develop. For me, though, I've got QPR 2, Wrexham 2, as we head then to Sheffield United versus Ipswich Town, which is the final game, I believe, on Saturday. There might be an evening game, actually, so we'll get to that in a moment. But Sheffield United have lost 3 on the bounce. It is not looking good for them. They went on a really good run, but then they just started to slip a little bit. And it came obviously in that game versus Mansfield, couldn't recover against Charlton, and obviously struggled against Southampton. Ipswich, unbelievable. They haven't lost in 7. They've won their last 5 in a row. It might even be more than 5 in a row. Shall we go and check their fixtures? Let's go and take a look at their fixtures. If it would let me, it won't let me. Why won't it let me look at the fixtures? All matches, there we go. So no, it's 5 wins. It's 6 wins in 7. 6 wins in 7, which is unbelievable. And if you could probably go even further back, to be fair. They've been on an unbelievable run, which I think you can only give credit to the management team there and the players that they've got. They do have a very good team. Now, Ipswich sit 3rd, game in hand on Borough. They could be in those automatic promotion places should they win their game in hand. Sheffield United, they're on 32 from 27. As I say, 40 is the magic number. And I do think Sheffield United will be fine, to be completely honest. But obviously at the moment they're struggling just a little bit. As we head into this one though, I'll be honest with you, I can't really see past Ipswich. Even though the head-to-head is very even, I cannot see past Ipswich. For me, I've got Sheffield United 1, Ipswich Town 3, coming away from Bramall Lane. As we go into Sunday's fixture, which is Pompey versus Southampton. Massive derby game. And I'm going to be completely honest. Yes, Pompey have picked up a couple of good wins and a draw in the last couple of weeks. Southampton have sort of dipped a little bit. I don't know. This is a derby. Anything can happen. And I want to give a big shout out to Ibu Adams, who's joined Pompey from Derby County. Very good defensive player, and we'll leave it at that. Hopefully he can get himself in and around it for this one. I think he's done all right in his first couple of games. But we look at the league table then. Southampton on 36 from 15. Pompey on 29 from 26. Obviously, if they won their 2 games in hand, they're right on the tail of Southampton. So we're going to have to wait and see how this one develops. Head-to-head wise, Pompey haven't won in this game. Obviously, they have done in the past, but this only has record back to 2011. Probably does miss games. Welcome to FootMob. But unfortunately, it's not been a good spell for Pompey. For me, though, I do have a Portsmouth victory. I've got Pompey 2, Southampton 1. As we head then into the final game of the weekend, which is Norwich City versus Coventry on Monday night. It's an absolutely huge game for Norwich City as they look to continue their fantastic run of form, which is 4 wins in 5 games. Coventry City have got themselves back onto back-to-back victories, but is that going to be enough heading into this one? Now, if we look at the league table, Coventry City lead the way. They are 8 points clear of 3rd place. Could be 6 if Ipswich win their game in hand, but ultimately they're like 17 points clear of 7th, so they're not really worried about not getting promoted. In terms of Norwich City, they're on 30 from 28. They, a couple of weeks ago, were down there in 23rd, really struggling. They've got themselves on a brilliant run of form, and you have to give full credit to the manager there. You look then at the head-to-heads, and Coventry haven't beat them in 15 meetings. Is it time for that to change? You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. For me, I've got Norwich City 1, Coventry City 2. But you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.